So, I've seen visceral images now,
Cool.
and I'm wondering on. We talked last night, me and you, about
Yeah.
the famous Christopher Nolan quote about like,
Yeah.
don't try to understand it, just
Yeah.
feel your way through the story,
Yeah.
and just sort of engross yourself in it, and
Mm-hmm.
just take the feelings from it more than anything else.
Yeah.
I'm wondering both what you take away from visceral images and also what you think other people should or what you hope they take away from it, and then what you hope they take away from your character and your performance.
I think everyone has a different takeaway from the films they watch, and so I think the first question you asked, what was the first question again? Sorry,
What did you take away from
Right.
your experience in the
Yeah.
film?
I think so. My experience from working on the film, because the first feature I'd shot a feature before this a few years back, and that was like an all-night shoot for several days, and so this felt quite similar to that in terms of the shooting schedule, and I just really loved it because it was again in one location, and the previous feature I shot was also in one location. So this felt like it was coming back to a familiar place again. So that was exciting, and when you're in the setup with other actors and other creatives in one place shooting a film, I feel like it tends to bond you in a way that's different from maybe other sets. Like if you're, and because this is specifically an indie film, and not like like a studio film or a film with a bigger budget, which lends to, more like there being more space between the directors and the actors, or maybe other creatives on set. That this lends to an experience where I took away a lot of good friendships, a lot of creative camaraderie, and also just very fulfilling emotionally to portray a character like Ash, because he's someone who's very relatable, and I think Ash is a part of everyone, I think, and everyone can relate in some shape, way, or form to him. So, yeah.
Do you prefer that kind of thing that you're talking about it being kind of an all-night shoot, and it kind of being very compact in terms of you've got maybe 2 to 3 days? I think Visceral Images, was it 7 nights?
Yeah, I think we had a few pickup days as well, so it might have been slightly longer, but definitely like a very short shooting schedule.
Do you like that kind of feel of it? I guess you would almost call it like guerrilla style of just being like, we've got a limited amount of time, we're gonna get in, shoot the shit, get out. Or do you think a more drawn out sort of process like you would have on a studio film? Do you think you would prefer that?
I think each approach has its pros and cons. I think for an indie film like this, the pros to working in such a tight schedule is also just the fact that you have to be so prepared. Like on the get-go, you've got to know everything. You've got to, not just your lines, but like, in fact, like it's just the prep that goes into the character before you start shooting a scene, and knowing what you need before the shot, and also just taking space if you need to take some space to kind of slip into the character. Or, I mean, I sound a bit like esoteric saying that, but like actor-y saying that. But like it's very much a personal process, and when you're shooting in such a tight schedule, I feel like you've got to be so focused. It's like a less compressed version of like a theater production, because when you're on stage, you've got to be so focused on like the beats, and like you said, the Christopher Nolan quote, you've got to feel it. So feel the energy in the room, and your place within that energy, and see how you move within that energy. So I feel like being on an indie film set, I think it really lends to more of that stage mindset where you've got to be prepared, and I think that definitely has its pros. And shooting at night as well, like I feel like it gives you a sense of, with the nature of this film as well and the grittiness, I think, and with Ash's character specifically, it lends that frenetic energy lends to his character and the way I portrayed it. So that was helpful, and I think it's just a case of using what you get, I think, on set. Like, and it can be anything. And I just like seeing what I can grab from around me in terms of, just the vibes and the vibe.
Have you done a lot of stage work?
I've done some stage work, yeah, but my work so far has been primarily in film, in features and shorts. But for the stage work I've done done some immersive theatre, I've done pantomime, I've done a few other bits on stage, and that requires like an immense like God level of focus, I feel.
Yeah.
And stage actors especially, I feel, are some of like the best actors in the world. So
yeah,
yeah.
I remember looking into the cast of the new Harry Potter TV show, and you can tell that they've focused quite heavily on actors who have worked in stage. So the young actress that's playing Hermione played Matilda in the musical.
Yeah.
And I find it quite interesting when you've got mainly American actors that don't come from the stage, and you've got a lot of British actors that come from the stage, and how that kind of affects the performance. I don't know if you know more, if you've got any insight into it, but I find that kind of sort of dynamic or like divide quite interesting.
Yeah, no, I think it's very interesting because with film, right, like you're trying not to do too much. You're trying to be natural. You're trying to exist within your surroundings. You're trying to trust in the fact that what you're thinking and feeling is reflecting on screen. And in terms of that, I feel like coming from a stage background, you're able to bring certain things, I feel, certain little extras or certain just instincts, which might be different from, let's say, if you've just worked specifically on film. It's hard to describe those things. Like if you watch like a performance, speaking of Harry Potter, like if you watch like a performance from Alan Rickman, he does certain things, and I think specifically in Love Actually, I think there's this, he played a part in that. I think.
Yeah, he was in Love Actually.
Okay, yes, yeah, he was.
Yeah, I think
because I tend to like mix up films for some reason.
Is it Emma Thompson? I think he's in a relationship with.
Yes. And he does some things in that film which I felt, man, like only a stage actor can think of those things, because it's just very instinctual, and in terms of his body movement specifically, I think.
Is it? Do you think stage is more free and sort of boisterous in some sense because you're kind of encouraged to play up because the audience's satisfaction is right there, it's immediate, whereas film is potentially a bit more controlled because you've got to do it in an environment where it can be captured on camera, and you have to think about everything else that's going on, so you have to be in a specific place because of the lighting, because of where the camera is, how you're centered or framed on the camera, that sort of thing.
No, I think technically, like you definitely have to be mindful of certain things, like where the light is, if you're cheating a shot, like where you're looking. You've got to imagine a lot as well. I mean, that's not to say that you're not imagining much on stage, but when you're shooting something, and if I have to maintain my eye line, if let's say you're the actor and you're there, and if I have to cheat by looking there, I've got to imagine how you would react in a situation so that I can react. And it's not always the case where I can look at you and react to something and like feed off of you. And I think that's a bit of a challenge there. But in terms of just the performance itself, I think stage I think the one common thread that, to my knowledge, connects screen and stage is just being truthful. I think just the idea of like playing up something is almost like you want to do it because you need to be seen and heard, not just in the first row, but like the back of the stage as well. So the back of the theater as well. So it's you've got to do something truthful, but it obviously has to connect with the audiences, and that's a skill set that is slightly different from film, I feel, to have that ability to reach out to people.
Do you prefer doing stage, or do you prefer working in something like Visceral Images, a feature film?
I think I love both, because I think both stage and screen have their own. You're able to learn different things, and I think that being a stage actor makes you a better actor to then translate some of those learnings to film. Yeah, I love both, but because I've trained in film and because I have like a passion for film, I think I'd probably say film more, but I definitely want more stage opportunities as well, because that really trains the muscle, the acting muscle, I feel, which you can then make surprising choices even in film.
If we come back onto the film more directly,
Yeah.
I forgot my question.
Alright.
Well,
Take a moment.
this is. I might cut this, but because this might be a bit of a spoiler. But
Yeah.
I interpreted the film as I think I told you last night about being about almost borderline personality and almost the need for oneself to kill off every other personality in order for the I'm not sure what the technical or the medical term is, but like the main personality to exist. And almost how, as hard as that can be, it is necessary, because if it isn't completed, then all personalities will eat each other. Do you think that that's a good or a valid interpretation, or is that one that you think I'm kind of like coming out of left field?
No, I think the beauty of film is just it's open to interpretation with any art form, I think. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because now that you've mentioned that, I'm going to rewatch the film and view it through that lens, because that's interesting also. But everyone has their own interpretation, I think, and that's what's really special about art. So, yeah.
Is there any films that you love where you have like a very, let's say, out there sort of interpretation of it, where you like maybe you've told someone and they've been like, I would have never picked up on that? Not to put you on the spot.
Trying to think. Oh yes, I'd actually watched a few years back After Sun. I'm not sure if you watched that with Paul Mescal. And
I know, I think pretty much everything about it,
yeah.
but I haven't actually seen it.
Yeah, no, it's such a good film, and it's one of those films where I'm just watching it and it's good. It's it was amazing, but it was only the last 5 minutes of the film where I felt like and it wasn't that I hadn't picked up on something specific. It was just a certain, going back to Christopher Nolan's quote again, you should feel it, not think it. At the end of that film, the last 5 to 10 minutes, I felt something which just like completely broke me down in a way that I hadn't experienced before on film and watching film. And I think that's one of the things which just comes to mind immediately. Just the emotion of him. I think that last shot when he is facing the camera, he turns behind and like walks back into the the disco area. I think that was really, that really caught me off guard. And I love films which have, you know, an element of nostalgia, of, it's hard to intellectualize it. I'm terrible at intellectualizing films because that's literally what I do. I just like feel them and not really intellectualize them.
Just because we keep
Probably
coming
should
back to it, is Christopher Nolan one of your like old timers?
I think he's definitely one of the best out there, and I think any actor would want to work with him. I think just the level of craft and detail, but more than that, I think it's just like his work ethic. I think on set, from like looking at all, watching all his interviews and other people talk about him, and just the quality of the work he puts out there. Yeah, I think he's definitely like one of the best filmmakers out there. Specifically, I love independent film more in the sense that I love that environment where you get to work on a script or an idea that's not necessarily commercially viable all the time, but has the ability to break out and, you know, be something that's personal to people, as opposed to having necessarily things in films which are more sort of commercial in nature, they're action, or, you know, like big set pieces and big action set pieces.
Well, when I interviewed Ed, the director of Visceral Images, Ed Palmer, he kind of placed the film in a lineage of other films that either I've heard a lot about and I think I would love, or films where I do love them. So the main one for me being Speak No Evil, I believe it's Danish film.
Okay.
And then
watched it, but
Red
sounds
Rooms.
familiar.
Yeah, there was an
Sounds
American
very
version of it
familiar,
as well, where they remade it. They sort of, I would say, sanitized it a bit and made it a bit more commercial. And then you've got Red Rooms, which is about like a girl who is seeking out like online videos of, I think, like murder and torture and things like that.
Okay.
And then he said, we're all going to the World's Fair, which I know the director's other film, which is about, you can kind of take it as about locking something deep within you and kind of ignoring it. But from the director's own words, I think she said that film specifically is about a trans message and about how the need for someone to kind of open themselves up is necessary, or else they kind of just fade away in life. I don't think any of those films became commercially viable, but is that sort of like the lineage of films that you would want to sort of exist in? A lot of those films also being sort of in the lineage of A24, Neon, those kind of films.
Yeah. No, I really love those kinds of films because I think they're either personal stories or stories that are slightly more experimental or interesting in nature, and I feel like that's definitely the sort of work which I want to continue doing. There's something about it that's just very, you know, there's a lot of, especially with indie films, you know, it's difficult to, you know, like conceptualize a film, pre-production, production, you know, that sort of thing. It just gets difficult to realize an idea. And some of these films are very personal, like I said, and I just love these sorts of films.
Well,
it's hard to really
I should say, like,
why,
it sounds like I'm saying, like, do you want to be in films that won't be successful? Like, I'm not.
Oh no, it's not.
Yeah.
No. Like, I think success is also very relative, right? Like, I think for me, success is just doing meaningful work and being, you know, sounds again actory, but like being truthful to the work you're doing and being able to discover new things within as an actor. I think indie films really lend to that, and I've loved a lot of independent films. I think recently, I've been watching more of those than the more commercial.
Are there any that
fair.
just came out in the last year that you really enjoyed?
Sentimental Value. I love that film.
I love Sentimental
Yeah.
Value. I thought it was great.
I think that it's just like the level of craft in that film. It was just incredible. I mean, that's just one film which comes to mind. There's several other films which I also need to watch, but that film, I think watching Renata's performance, and also, I mean, I think everyone was spectacular, but just watching her and I think Elle Fanning's character
Yeah.
in the cinema, just talking about her dad.
Yeah.
There's so many things there we just felt so lived in, and just, saying things without saying things, and that really, like, a level of craft that's just firing on all cylinders. Like, I think it was one of the best, crafted films
Yeah.
last year.
Should we end there? I think they want us off.
Yeah, I know it is. Yeah, sounds good.